two kinds of people in this world: those who learn and stay stuck, and those who learn and take action. And there was a guy over 3,000 years ago who understood this principle to the T, and it made him the richest and the wisest man in history. And what he knew was that this one mindset shift is going to separate the millionaires and billionaires, and millionaires from dreamers, leaders from followers, and champions from spectators. But I can guarantee you by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one you are and how to break that cycle that's been holding you back. But before we get into too deep, I want you to know exactly what I mean, because you've probably met both of these types of people. And if you're honest, you've probably been both these kinds of people. First, you have the action taker, right? This is the person that starts a new journey, whether in life or business, and don't want to just absorb that information. They activate everything that they learn. They ask questions. They connect dots. They're not waiting to get done with their course to start doing something. They've already mapped out their next 3 moves. They treat the knowledge like ammunition. When they hear about a new strategy or read a book or attend a workshop, they immediately ask, how can I weaponize this? What's my first move? Who do I need to network with? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to meet? And who do I need to become? They don't just learn, they load up for battle. But then on the other side, you got the stuck learner. This is the person who loves to learn, right? They're at every seminar, on every Facebook group. They join every coaching program, right? They're not lazy. They're just addicted to feeling productive. They're chasing that dopamine rush that comes from knowing more but never doing more. They spend thousands of dollars learning how to close a deal, but then don't pick up the phone to talk to a seller. They master that 6-week course, but they can't even have a 6-minute uncomfortable conversation. They're that person that's always stuck in preparation and never launch. They don't want to go into battle. They just want to keep polishing their armor. And here's the kicker. Both types of these people are hungry to grow. They both love wisdom. They might even both pray and ask God for it. But the difference is that it shows up after the lesson ends. Action takers use knowledge to conquer, and stuck learners use knowledge to cope. One is building a life, and the other one's just building a bookshelf. What's more important? Your past history of what you accomplished, or the amount of books you collected on your bookshelf? And here's what blew my mind, right? The Bible doesn't just hint at this. It straight up exposes it, and I love it. We're not just here talking about ancient history or just some book and just some scriptures. We're talking about divine blueprints from the exact choice that you're making in your life, your business, and your destiny right now. And we can probably all agree on this. Nobody wants to stay stuck. We are wired to build, to grow, to conquer, to be fruitful, to multiply, right? You are designed to do something in your life. So let's start with what an action taker actually looks like. And who better to study than the one and only King Solomon? When Solomon became king, God appeared to him in a dream and said, "Ask, what shall I give you?" Let that sink in for a moment. The creator of the universe handed Solomon a blank check. What would you ask for if God said, "What do you want? I'll give it to you. No questions asked. What is it?" What would you ask for? Most people are going to ask for that money, that power, the revenge on somebody, a long life. But guess what Solomon did? He said, "Give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil." He asked for wisdom, not personal gain. But then he also asked to serve others well. And God honored that request. He gave him the wisdom and everything else that everybody else would have chose. But here's what most people miss. Solomon didn't just ask for that wisdom. He used it immediately. He didn't just sit around feeling smart. He put all that wisdom to work right then and there, right after God gave it to him. And the first test was a case that no one else could have solved but him. The Bible tells us 2 women came before him with a heartbreaking dilemma. It's in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16. You can go read it. It says that these women were harlots, right? In Greek, not Greek, Hebrew and Greek, it means the same thing, essentially. It means they are prostitutes, right? Both these women are black sheep of society. They have no husbands. They have no legal rights. They have no credibility in the courts. Yet Solomon didn't turn them away. He didn't dismiss their issues as beneath him or say, "Get out of here, dirty woman," or whatever, unclean, right? He didn't do that. He leaned in. He applied that very wisdom that God just gave him. And here's what happened, right? These 2 women, they lived together. They both had a son, just days apart from being born. But one night, one of the babies died. And while the other mother slept, the grieving woman switched the babies. She put her dead child with the lady and then took her living child for her own. And the real mother woke up and she saw this dead kid and she's like freaking out. And she says, "Wait a second. This isn't my son, right? But she had no evidence, no witnesses. There was no DNA test back then. There's no polygraphs. But she brought the case to Solomon. And what does he do? He lets them say it back and forth, whatever they're saying. And then he says, hey, give me a sword. This is in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 24. Go read it. And he says, cut the living child in two, give one half to one, and give the other half to the other. And that sounds crazy, right? You'd be like, what? This dude's nuts. But it was just a divine strategy that God gave him with that wisdom. Because immediately he knew that the real mother was going to cry out. And she did. She said, no, my Lord, give her the child and don't kill him. And the other woman coldly said, he shall be neither mine nor yours. Divide him. Go ahead and cut him up. What mother in the right mind is going to do that? Right? So Solomon said, give the living child to the first woman. That's the mom. Right? Boom. He applied that wisdom. Justice was served. But here's what happens next. Because he did that in front of everybody. All of Israel heard that judgment. But they started to fear the king because they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to administer that justice. But Solomon didn't stop there. He didn't just solve hard problems. He didn't just build systems. He scaled that wisdom into strategy. He looked at Israel's economy and saw opportunity. He established trade routes, built fleets of ships. He had a whole navy. 1 Kings chapter 9, 26 through 28. Go read it again. He brokered international deals. He traded 20 cities in Galilee to King Hiram in exchange for timber and gold. He created partnerships, open markets, multiplied resources, and even infrastructure. Because Solomon didn't just possess wisdom, he turned it into policy, partnerships, and profit. In fact, after all that happened, after he traded all that, right, his name is buzzing everywhere. Word of mouth is spreading like crazy, like wildfire. Queen of Sheba comes by. She said, I heard about your wisdom, about your wealth, right? But she didn't send a messenger. She pulled up. She went over 1,000 miles just to see if this was true because she's like, I don't know if I can believe this. Is for one man, that's a lot. And when she arrived, she asked him hard questions. She toured the palace, saw his people, saw the economy. She was blown away. She said, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity exceeded the fame which I have heard, right? And the scripture says that King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. He became the richest and wealthiest man in human history just from gold alone, right? Because they were bringing him all kinds of stuff. They were bringing him all kind of herbs and wood and silver, but just in gold alone was 666 talents per year. That's over 25 tons of gold annually. And if you look at the math right now, gold's valued around 3,300 some dollars. That's $2.7 billion a year just in gold. And Solomon's wealth wasn't just the fruit of the wisdom in action. And it wasn't wisdom in isolation. He didn't just study, he actually built. He didn't pray, he planned. And he didn't just learn, he actually launched what he had, what God given him, into action. Because action takers don't collect information to feel good. They collect it to go out, apply it, and conquer. And Solomon stands as a divine reminder that applied wisdom doesn't change your life. It's going to build your legacy. It's going to change the trajectory of your family's life. It's going to be able to leave an inheritance to your children's children, to be able to have you still carry out 4, 5, 6 generations later after you. You can even shift nations, countries, neighborhoods, communities, all on you applying your wisdom and taking action. Now, let's flip the script again. Because with every action taker like Solomon, the Bible also gives us crystal clear examples of stuck learners. People who had access to that same wisdom, that same opportunity, that same promise of God, and the same power inside. But instead, they chose comfort over their calling. We're going to talk about 2 prime examples that show and prove this pattern as an old trick of humanity itself. The first one is going to be the Israelites at Kadesh Barnea. When information doesn't lead to action, I want you to picture this. You're leading this great startup, let's say not even the great, right? The greatest startup in history. You got divine backing, you got all the insight, you got unlimited resources, you have a clear opportunity in front of you. And your team just came back from the most thorough, immaculate scouting trip imaginable. They gathered everything firsthand, all the insights, studied the land, confirmed everything that God said was true. That's exactly what the Israelites did in Numbers 13. God had already promised the land of Canaan. It was prime real estate, land flowing with milk and honey. So Moses sent out 12 spies to explore that land. For 40 days, they walked the land. They studied the people. They analyzed the city. They even brought back physical evidence. They had grapes so large that it took 2 men to carry one single cluster of grapes. Could you imagine that? Like, they don't even have grapes like that now. And when they returned, their initial report was this: "We went to the land where you sent us, and it truly flows with milk and honey. And this is its fruit." They showed them the big old pile of grapes, right? The opportunity was real. The fruit was literally in their hands. But here comes the most famous humanity part. But nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. Fear. The cities are fortified. Fear. And very large. Comparison. 10 of the 12 spies shifted focus from promise to problem. They said, we're not going to be able to go against those people. They're stronger than we are. Even with God's promises, seeing miracles, going through the wilderness, seeing the Egyptians get crushed by the Red Sea, by witnessing all of this stuff happening, holding the proof in their hands, they chose fear over faith, comfort over conquest, and hesitation over obedience. And the result of that, God said in essence, you're not going to enter the land. And he sentenced that entire generation to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until scripture says, your carcasses are consumed in the wilderness. That's Numbers 14:33. It says, 1 year of delay for every day they scouted the land, which was a full 40 years. Not because they lacked information, because they lacked faith to act on it. They were informed but inactive, inspired but unwilling. They were just stuck learners. They went out for 40 days and did what? Wasted their freaking time. Example number 2, one of the most famous scriptures about riches in the New Testament, the young rich ruler, right? This is when coaching doesn't create change. Let's bring it a little closer to home because this is where we are today. Everybody wants coaching. Everybody wants mentorship. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be a coach. Everybody wants to be a mentor. Okay? But because sometimes the issue isn't the collective fear, it's a personal hesitation. This is where we see the young rich ruler in Matthew 19. This dude had everything. He had wealth, status, influence. On top of that, he even had the wisdom to seek out the best mentor on the planet. He went to Jesus himself. He didn't just read about Jesus. He didn't ask some follower about Jesus. He didn't follow him from a distance. He went face to face and asked questions of a lifetime. He said, good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? That's 101 coaching with the King of Kings. And Jesus gives him the plain, clear step. Keep my commandments. And the young man said, what? All of these things I have from my youth. What do I still lack? He started getting cocky, right? Mr. Know-it-all, right? He was hungry. And he knew that there was more, but he thought, I already done that, so I must be good, right? He's asking the right questions to the right person, though, because Jesus gives him this next answer. He said, if you want to be perfect, go and sell all you have and give it to the poor, and your treasure will be in heaven. Come and follow me. Clear direction, personal invitation. Don't get no better than that. You don't got to pay me nothing. Give everything to the poor. Give it to people that need it. And the exact next step he needed for that breakthrough, he claimed to want. But then what happened? He heard it. He heard what he said. And he went away crying, holding on to his belongings. He had the conversation. He got the clarity. He knew exactly what to do. But when it required change and sacrifice and obedience, he walked away from it. He chose his comfort zone over his calling. He decided his wealth was better than anything he could ever have. And his status, he didn't want to surrender it. The pattern's clear. Both examples show us the same devastating truth. Information without implementation is just expensive entertainment. Yes, expensive entertainment. You're going to spend thousands of dollars on coaching. You're not going to do what the coach says. You're a waste of time. You're insane. And the Israelites had that same divine promises and hard evidence. The young rich ruler had that personal guidance from the Son of God, the King of Kings. But in both cases, they walked away from the very thing that they said they wanted. But Solomon, he took his wisdom, he built an empire. The Israelites, they took intelligence and built excuses. The young rich ruler took his coaching and built nothing. Same access to wisdom, totally different outcomes. Because stuck learners don't have a knowledge problem, they have an action problem. But how are you going to break this stuck learner cycle and become an action taker? How are you going to shift from being stuck to being that action taker? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the truth is, breakthrough doesn't start with knowing more. It starts with something different. And to help you do that, I got a 5-step framework for you to follow and begin applying today. So if you have pen and paper, take the notes or go back and watch this recording, watch the video again, because there's 5 steps. The first step is going to be to learn with intent to act. Look, action takers don't learn to feel smart. They don't learn to feel good. They learn to get results. Before you pick up a book, before you register for a course, or you jump on a Zoom call, ask yourself, what am I going to do if I learn something with this? Solomon didn't ask for wisdom to boost his image. He didn't ask for wisdom just to get rich. He asked for it to lead people and serve people well. The intention was baked into the request. Step number 2, set implementation deadlines. Stuck learners say, oh, I'll get to it. They're the king of procrastination. Action takers say, I'm going to get this done by this week. The Israelites had 40 days of scouting and a lifetime of excuses. Young rich ruler had one clear conversation with Jesus and no follow through. Action takers are going to create urgency because they know that a delayed decision is often a denied destiny. Number 3, start before you feel ready. This one separates watchers from winners, stuck learners who wait for perfect conditions, and action takers who move forward with what they have. Solomon did not wait until he felt wise enough to make that ruling. He used what God gave him immediately and let the results confirm the wisdom. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to know the next move. You just need to move on something. Which leads me to step number 4. Measure progress, not your perfection. Action takers are going to track their KPIs, track the results, not just learn. They ask, what changed because of what I learned? What got built? What moved forward? Solomon's wisdom wasn't abstract. It produced fruit, justice, wealth, peace, expansion. He could see it, he could measure it, he could experience it. He obtained it. And number 5, turn your knowledge into systems. This is what's going to separate you from temporary growth from long-term impact. Stuck learners chase new information, right? The next new fad, the next new thing, the next shiny object syndrome. Action takers are going to create repeatable results. I'll give you an example of my own life. The stuff I do my business today, I've innovated it, but it's the same process that I've been doing for the past 3 years. It's proven to produce over $250,000 a year with a team of 1 or 2. Why would I not keep repeating and just expanding and innovating that one thing I have? Why would I go to try to learn something completely new that goes against what I already know works? You know that old saying, don't fix what's not broken? This is one of those things. See, Solomon didn't stop after one wise ruling. He built a judicial system. He didn't make one trade deal. He took that one trade and became an international economy. See, systems multiply what wisdom started. And the question that changes everything from now and every time you finish a book, call, or podcast, or even a video like this, is for you to ask yourself, how can I use this? What's my first move? Who do I need to talk to? Because that's the line between consuming and conquering, between learning and leading, being stuck as a learner and becoming an action taker. But I want to ask you something, and I want you to keep it real with yourself. If this resonates with you, totally resonate with you, if you saw yourself there before, if you've been there before, if you know somebody that's been there before, if you're tired of being inspired but not transformed, if you're ready to stop sitting on what you know and start building with what it is, then connect with me. Look, I work with other kingdom entrepreneurs, other leaders who are serious about applying these principles to create results in their life, whether it's business, mindset, real estate. I've learned that God doesn't just want you to have wisdom. He wants you to use it. He doesn't just want you to be blessed. He wants you to be that blessing. Every day I pray for my cup to overflow into others. This is an opportunity to do that. And he didn't call you to spectate in your life. He called you to lead in it. So whether you're looking for that strategy that works, the system to build that wealth, coaching that helps you break those cycles to move forward, I have the frameworks, or I'll point you in the direction of somebody that has other frameworks that's going to fit your need. Either way, you need to get connected. You got to get connected with somebody that's doing what you want to do right now, today, and take action on it. And if you're feeling called to, go to carlosbolton.com right now, see what there is to offer, connect with me. Just type in the contact thing. Let's just connect. Let's get to know each other. Let's see how I can help you and how we can elevate your life. Let's turn your potential into results. And let's move you from knowing to building. Let's take that wisdom that God gave you and do something with it. Don't be like the Israelites sitting on the edge of breakthrough, but too afraid to cross over. Don't be like the young rich ruler who walked away from everything that you've been praying for. Be like Solomon, an action taker who used wisdom to build legacy, influence, and kingdom wealth. And like I said, if this resonates with you, I appreciate you watching the video. Let's connect. But outside of that, subscribe to the channel. Don't miss the next video that's coming next week. Share this with somebody you know that's been stuck for a long time. Go to the website. Let's get you moving. Let's stop learning just to feel good. Let's start taking action. And let's build what God has called you to build. Stay blessed by the best. I'll catch you next week.